It's just the latest in the back and forth on trade between these two countries. You remember in late March is when those tariffs went into effect, originally on Turkey, in addition to a whole host of other countries. In the meantime, Turkey decided to retaliate against a cross-section of U.S. goods representing, call it 15% of what the U.S. sends to Turkey each year. U.S. Trade Representative was then studying Turkey's market access to the United States. That was something that was also being looked at very closely by investors, what the trading relationship between the U.S. and Turkey would ultimately be and what that meant for Turkey's economy, however small it may be. There were talks in Washington this week at the State Department between Turkey and the U.S. They resolved nothing. They were on trade. They were also on the detention of these 7 American citizens, including the evangelical pastor Andrew Brunson, which, of course, the president is following very closely. But interestingly, where the president tweets this new policy, of course, it is official because it's coming from the Twitter feed of the president. But we don't have a press release from the Department of Commerce, which is running this investigation and running this policy. And we would expect that that would be formalized in that channel. And it also appears to be a somewhat arbitrarily arrived at number. We know the president likes big round numbers on trade, but there needs to be a lot of evidence behind the decision to make policies like this. Otherwise, it would appear ripe for a challenge at the World Trade Organization. So we'll see what the end game is for that policy and what eventually happens and what Commerce eventually says about how it has arrived at the official decision, if that is what we get today, to double those tariffs.
Well, watch. Erdogan obviously has been to Washington under the president's term. It's not clear exactly, Kayla, whether this is all about the sanctions related to the U.S. pastor. Is that the end game, as you mentioned, or is there something else that he's seeking?
Well, that's certainly one of the outcomes that the president is looking at. But there is also this trade backdrop here. And we know that he likes to use these tariffs as leverage. He likes to exact pain on economies where he feels that he can to get an outcome that is desirable for him and his administration. So that seems to be that on one hand, this could be about trade, but this could be using trade as leverage for many other policies or outcomes that he wants to see take shape here.
Kayla, there were a bunch of Turkish officials in Washington, I think it was yesterday or Wednesday. I mean, obviously that came to nothing, huh?
It came to nothing, and that was one of the reasons, Michelle, why you not only saw the market slip, but you saw the Turkish currency slip, because there was this expectation that maybe in this hour-long meeting between the Turkish delegation and the Deputy Secretary of State, that there would be some sort of truce that would have been reached, some sort of agreement, and there wasn't. And so this deterioration between the U.S. and Turkey is something that people don't quite understand exactly what to make of it, what the result is, especially with the U.S. being a fairly large trading partner of Turkey's.